Simply Cooking by MmmChef is brought to you in part by CPI Interiors. A great kitchen starts with a great design. Get that custom home interior you dream of. At CPI Interiors, we listen and beautiful happens.
Welcome to Simply Cooking by MmmChef. I'm Daniela Croco and I'm a holistic chef. I take classic traditional recipes and turn them into nutritious, delicious, simple eats. Today we're going to be talking about date night, so stay tuned. One of the things that I love to do after a busy week is have a nice date night with my hubby. But I don't like cooking and I don't like preparing because I'm tired. So I love to make what we called abundance boards. Today I'm going to be making 3 different boards. We're gonna have 2 savory boards and 1 dessert board. But the first thing I'm gonna do is get this chocolate on to melt because that takes the longest. I've already got a pot with boiling water, so this way the chocolate will come together nicely. I'm just gonna leave that there. I love to make abundance boards. And why do I call them abundance boards? Because they're an abundance of all the things that you love together. There's no rhyme or reason, there's no rules. It's literally about taking a whole bunch of different ingredients and making them into something that you love, that you can snack on. Maybe curl up on the couch and have a snack night. I'm gonna grab some cheeses and things from the fridge that I want to be able to come to room temperature while I wait for this chocolate to melt. All right. I'm going to be dipping some chocolate with marshmallows and strawberries, and I just have to continue to keep giving this a stir while it melts. And then I'm going to grab some plates and boards and things that I'm going to start building all these beautiful things on. As an Italian girl, I grew up with antipasti. And then I went to culinary school for French training and learned all about charcuterie. And charcuterie is all about a meat plate. And antipasti is all about a little bit of meat, a little bit of fruit, and a little bit of snack that you might have at the beginning of a meal, like an appetizer. I like to take all of these concepts and kind of mesh them together. So today we're going to be doing a meat board, like a charcuterie, and then we're going to be doing a plant-based board, and then we're going to have a dessert board, which I like to call a s'mores board because we've got marshmallows for that. I've got these beautiful wood platters that I'm going to use for each of them. I'm going to leave these 2 here for my savory things, and I'm going to leave this one to the side for my dessert. Oh, that chocolate is melting nicely. Just going to turn that up. I love to use semi-sweet chocolate chips. It gives a nice bitterness. And that's something that I like to do with my boards, is all about the different flavors, textures, and savory, sweet, salty, all of those things. I'm gonna dip these beautiful strawberries. Taking a little bit longer than I thought. So today I'm not wearing an apron because it's the end of the day and I've let my hair down a little bit because tonight is date night with my hubs. So we're taking a little bit different of an approach. I'm just taking things out of my fridge that I've already got and some of the favorite things that I love to eat and want to clean up in my fridge. I've got these 2 boiled eggs that are left over from last week, so I'm going to use those on my board later too. I can smell the strawberries. I'm gonna get these lined up for myself. So I've got these cheeses here, they're coming to room temperature. And then I also have a whole bunch of other little accoutrements that I'm gonna pull out and set up on the board here so that I can build together. I'm gonna show you how you can put different things together to make a gourmet looking dinner or meal without actually having to do the work that a gourmet chef would have to do. We are almost there. You don't have to dip in chocolate if you don't have as much time, or you're in a rush and on the go, or maybe you need to make this board while you're making dinner for your kids and you're gonna set it aside for later. You definitely don't have to take the time to dip anything in chocolate. I just thought that I would take it up to the next level for my husband tonight. Look at that. The chocolate is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm gonna turn that down so that my chocolate doesn't burn, and I'm gonna set this to the side. I'm going to dip the strawberries and set them on this, and I'm gonna dip the marshmallows and also set them on this, and I'm gonna set them in the fridge after. My favorite thing to do is hold the little green part and dip each side, just like that. I'll do a couple of these. Yummy. Who does not love chocolate and strawberries? I'm a salty girl, so I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt onto these strawberries for me, but my husband does not like the sweet and salt mixed together, so I'm gonna dip him a couple that don't have any salt on them at all. Three for me, and 3 for Wendell. Excellent. And now with these marshmallows. The marshmallows don't have anything to hold on to, so I'm gonna use a fork to drop it in there. And then I actually like to use these little chopsticks to turn the marshmallow around, and then I'm not wasting a lot of chocolate on my fork. Look at that. Get another one in there. I think I'm gonna drop them both in there all at the same time. And you know what? 3 isn't enough. We definitely want at least 2 marshmallows each. Now, of course, I melted a little bit too much chocolate, but you know what? You can actually put this bowl right in the fridge, just the way that it is, and let the chocolate set. And then next weekend, when it's board night, you can just take the same bowl out of the fridge and put it back onto your pot of boiling water, which is called a bain-marie. And you can just dip whatever you want. Or maybe in the middle of the week, you are having a craving for melted chocolate and you can pull it out and melt some stuff for yourself. Now, I'm gonna set these and finish dipping these. So after I finish dipping these, I'm gonna put these in the fridge and they're gonna get nice and set so that I can continue on with the rest of building the boards. I'm also gonna clean up all of the sweet stuff that you see in front of me, and I'm gonna give those eggs a nice peel. We'll see you after the break. I've got my strawberries and my marshmallows setting in the fridge, and I pulled out some ingredients to start doing my savory boards. I've got 2 boards here. One I'm gonna do as a meat board, and one of them I'm going to do as a plant-based board. I've got some of my favorite things as well as my hubby Wendell's favorite things to put on the board. I'm gonna chop some of these veggies. I've got some leftover hummus that I made earlier in the week, and so I'm gonna use that as a dip. And it doesn't really matter kind of what you like or what you don't like or what you have on hand. I'm gonna be using some cured meats today, but it doesn't really matter. You could also use some cooked leftover chicken breast, some lunch turkey meat that you might have. You can even, if you don't get to your lunch one day, you can even pull your lunch apart and turn it into a board. I'm doing a plant-based board because my favorite cheeses are actually these beautiful plant-based cheeses that are made with a coconut and tapioca base. This one is a cheddar cheese. And then I've also got this lovely smoked Gouda. Really, anything you like. I don't eat dairy, so I use these cheeses for me, but my husband loves goat cheese, so I'm gonna add that to the meat board for him. And because it's just the two of us, I don't need to use all of this, but you can have friends over or turn this into a bigger celebration or party, dinner or anything like that just by increasing the size of your board. We're only two, so I'm gonna do a small veggie, small meat, and a small dessert board. But the more people that you have, the more big size that you can use. I have this huge chopping block here. I've even set up a large charcuterie and dessert board all on the same board with the different sections all on here. And then that way things are separated, but it's all together looking beautiful. It's a way to create a gourmet, indulgent looking meal with just simple pieces that you already have in your pantry and your fridge. I did those in cubes. I'm gonna do these in a couple slices. The only thing about the dairy-free cheese is it is a little bit stickier. Beautiful. And I've got this hummus I was making earlier in the week. I'm gonna put that in this little bowl here. Now I'm using hummus, but you can, if you have some mayo in the fridge, you can mix in some garlic and onion powder and maybe some herbs, and then you've got a quick makeshift dip. But really, it's whatever you've got. I always have hummus on hand. It's one of my favorite things, so I make hummus about once a week with a can of chickpeas. Cut these beautiful little peppers. They don't really have many seeds inside, so you could only have to cut them in half, put them on the board. If you're doing one of these abundance boards for friends or family coming over, you don't even have to be exclusive to what you have in your fridge. You can actually ask them to bring something over. Ask them to bring over their favorite cheese or a handful of basil from their garden, or maybe they have a favorite baguette or crackers that they love to use. The thing about the boards is that it comes together really quickly. So even if when your guests arrive, it's not finished yet, that's okay, because it's also fun putting it together. I'm gonna move this stuff all over to this side. I lost a pepper. That's okay, I won't tell. It's just for me and my husband. No one has to know. All right, and now I'm gonna start building this. I'm doing them both at the same time, just to show you. I love to have different textures, different flavors, crunchy, soft, smooth, all the different things. Now, I always have some cured meats in my fridge. As an Italian girl, I grew up with my nonna and my dad making salamis once a year. We have a cantina and we cure the meats right in the basement cantina. This is called salsiccia. It is a cured pork sausage that has paprika and pepper that my nonna brings right from Italy. And then this is the same version, but without the paprika. And it's just salted with black peppers. Now, of course, like I said, you don't have to use cured meats. You could definitely go without the meat if you're plant-based. And there's even these wonderful products that they make now for plant-based people out of lentils and wheat gluten and, tempeh and tofu and things like that you can use instead of real meat. Give these a lovely little slice. And it's all about building height and all about building different colors and textures next to each other on the board, because we eat with our eyes first, right? So it's all about the presentation. It doesn't really matter what it is on the board. It's just about making sure that the things that are next to each other don't look the same. I've also got some prosciutto here, which is an Italian favorite. And I like to pull it apart really messily. So if you have some lunch meat that's left over, it doesn't have to look pretty. I love to bunch it all together, and it creates a beautiful look and a beautiful height on my board. I'm not going to use all of it because this is one of my favorite dinners, and we actually like to do this sometimes a couple times a week, because sometimes I'm in a rush and on the go, and I've perhaps spent the whole entire day cooking inside one of my clients' home, and the last thing I want to do is come home after a long day of cooking for someone else and turn on the stove and cook for myself. So this is a great way to put something together really quickly and be able to cuddle on the couch with a nice movie and not have to worry about things getting cold or hot because we're eating at room temperature. Look how simple. Just putting things in a different shape next to each other can actually create such a beautiful look on the board. Now this is my husband's favorite cheese, a beautiful log of goat cheese. I always have one of these in the fridge. I'm just gonna take a little piece of that. Some people might want to use a different knife, or if you have guests coming that have different dietary needs, you wouldn't use the same knife, but because it's just for me and my hubs, it's all good. Now I have these boiled eggs that I had also cooked earlier in the week. So we're gonna use those. I'm gonna give my knife a little bit of a wipe here. Oh, and they're beautifully, perfectly cooked as well. This is my favorite way to eat a boiled egg. And then I just like to lay things not flat and maybe on an angle and put them in different places so that the board has this unique look with the different sections all over the place. What else do I have? So I've got my meats and my veggies and all the things from the fridge, but I've also got some accoutrements like nuts and seeds and some pickled vegetables and olives. I'm just gonna grab those and kind of take them and create art. That's kind of how I like to look at my abundance boards. It's kind of like a work of art because you're creating something delicious, but you're also creating something that looks super fancy, like from a gourmet style restaurant, but just using simple things you have. I've got grapes and cherry tomatoes. I've got pickles and jalapeno peppers and sun-dried tomatoes, olives, an avocado, some walnuts. And then of course we need a vessel. We need something crunchy or something carby to be able to hold the deliciousness. I love to use these seed crackers and these rice crackers, but of course you use whatever you have at home. Baguette, pita, leftover bread, some stale bread that you can toast in the oven and create your own little crostinis, but really anything. I like to stick with gluten-free, so that's why I use these crackers, but it's so versatile. That's the whole thing about these abundance boards, is there is no rules. You're really just using what you have. These delicious crunchy crackers on my board. I'm gonna throw a couple little colored tomatoes on here as well. And there's no rhyme or reason. I just like to use them as little gems all over the board. Oh, I lost one. I got it. And who doesn't love some lovely crispy grapes to go with their cured meats? What a traditional look. This reminds me of an antipasti plate, which is the Italian version. But without the grapes, it would remind me of a charcuterie. That's why I say they kind of all overlap. Every culture has their own version of this. And that's why I created the word abundance board, because that's my version. As a Canadian Italian, there is no rhyme or reason, so that's my version. Along with the beautiful cured meats that came from my family, I also grew up learning how to pickle and jar and can things so that they would last all through the winter. My Nona makes these amazingly beautiful pickled green tomatoes. And so at the end of the summertime, when she's got baskets and baskets of tomatoes that haven't ripened yet, and she doesn't know what to do with them, in the South, they might make something like fried green tomatoes. But in Italian culture, we like to pickle things. So she cuts them up really, really, really thin and adds olive oil, garlic, chili, and creates this beautiful pickled accoutrement. Put that on the board there. I've got some olives. Wendell does not like olives, so I'm gonna make sure that I don't put any of this olive juice next to his delicious goat cheese. I'm gonna put it on my side. And that's something else you can touch on. if you have guests coming and some people have different likes and dislikes, you don't have to have the food touching. You can actually have a whole bunch of little bowls and everything can be separated. There really is endless possibilities when it comes to this kind of stuff. I love walnuts with goat cheese and grapes. So that's the crunch I'm gonna put on this meat board. I also love a little bit of spice. Wendell is not a spicy guy. So again, I'm gonna put my hot pepper over here beside my olives. I've got sun-dried tomatoes. They give a lovely leathery chew with a delicious pop and burst of tomato fresh flavor. Again, I'm gonna put that with my olives. Now, who doesn't love a beautifully, perfectly ripe avocado? Now, this is gonna go bad by tomorrow, and I don't want that to happen, so I'm gonna use it up tonight. Avocado is not something that you would traditionally see on a charcuterie board or even on an antipasti platter. To be honest, as an Italian girl, I never even tried an avocado until I was an adult and moved out because it was just not something that I knew what it was. But now I love it. And you cannot waste an avocado that is perfectly ripe. So I thought I had to add this to our board today. One for me and one for Wendell on the side. And then I love spice. So I'm gonna add a little bit of chili flakes to the top of my avocado. Delicious. All right, now look at these boards. They already look beautiful and amazing, like you could have gotten them at a first-class gourmet restaurant, but I just made them out of all the things that I already had in my fridge. There is a little thing missing though. Who doesn't love to have a little bit of olive oil and balsamic dip with their stuff? So I'm just gonna grab that. Got some delicious olive oil. I love to use extra virgin olive oil, and I'm quite partial to making sure my olive oil comes from Italy, but any type of oil would do well. So you can use a little bit of avocado oil in here, even some sunflower oil if you don't have anything else, because we're gonna add some flavor, and so the oil will take on the flavor. Here's a little bit of balsamic vinegar, a little bit of chili flake, a little bit of salt that I've ground up in my mortar and pestle here earlier. And I'm just gonna give this a little stir. And actually, this bowl is a little bit big. I think this will fit inside this tiny little guy. Perfect. Don't you love that? When you get the perfect amount. There we go. Look at that. And because Wendell doesn't like chili, I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil to the top of his half of his avocado. Same with the salt. I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt on top of the boiled eggs and a little bit of salt on top of the avocados. Delicious. Doesn't this make your mouth water? Definitely makes my mouth water. And oftentimes when I'm not in a rush, this is also something that I really enjoy doing and taking my time to do. So not only is it a great meal to have in a rush or when you're tired at the end of the day, it's also a lovely meal to make when you have some extra time on a Sunday perhaps, and you're taking the time to relax and figure out and enjoy all the beautiful flavors that you want to put together. All right, now I've got these lovely savory boards. I'm gonna set these aside, and while I do that, I'm gonna take the marshmallows and strawberries out of the fridge so that I can get everything set up to start making my dessert board, and I'll see you all after the break.
This program is brought to you in part by CPI Interiors, designing customized home spaces for all tastes and budgets for over 20 years. At CPI Interiors, we listen and beautiful happens.
Now that I've got my savory boards ready to go, I'm gonna start working on my dessert board. My strawberries and my marshmallows are perfectly set. I'm gonna take this couple strawberries and place them on my board. I've always got some washed and ready berries in my fridge, whether it's strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. So I'm gonna use some of those. And you can really do themes with these. You can make different dessert themes, as I mentioned earlier, like a s'mores board. I've got these delicious chocolate cookies, but you could also use graham crackers and then make yourself a s'more with your chocolate covered marshmallows. Now again, we're looking for different flavors and textures. I got some dried apricots. I've got some dried cranberries. I've got some dried figs, which I always have on hand. And even though I put some walnuts on one of the savory boards to go with the goat cheese, I'm also gonna put some walnuts on the dessert because who doesn't love nuts and chocolate mixed together? What I love to do with these dried figs is pull them open, and it shows the beautiful dotted seeds on the inside. And then they're easy to pair with something else, like put a raspberry inside. Got some walnuts. And then I'm gonna take these marshmallows. I put some with salt on them for me, and I've got some without salt for Wendell. Now I made extra strawberries and marshmallows. We're definitely not gonna eat these all tonight, but how can you not make more so that we have some left over, maybe for tomorrow? And a lovely block of dark chocolate. I love semi-sweet dark chocolate. Look at that. So much simpler than I thought. Well, I knew it was simple, but look at this. We've got all the different textures, all the different flavors, crunchy, soft, smooth, and sweet, but with a little bit of salt. I'm also gonna actually, just as a finishing touch for myself, is add one little last sprinkle of salt, because when I eat my dark chocolate, that flavor with a little bit of crystallized salt on top, there's nothing that compares to that. Wasn't that simple? Thanks for joining us.